Anyway, I want to ask you about robots here towards the back end of our conversation, a little bit bigger picture. We
Sure.
talked a little bit about this last
Mm-hmm.
time. Um, what are your thoughts, Joe, on like how far will robots and AI, how far will that go? Like, what do you see, down the road, 50 years from now, whatever? I don't know. Let's pick a number, but
Yeah.
like, where do you see it? Where do you see it all going long term?
I mean, if it's in the, so it's a good question, and you can ask 1,000 people and get 1,000 different answers. I guess in my view, I like to look at it. Let's look at B2B. Okay, because if
Okay.
you have B2C, so if you have business to consumer, right? Uh, you know those would be business to consumer. I can justify anything I spend as a consumer, right? Just because I like it, right?
True.
I can say,
True.
oh, I want the newest iPhone because I get this great
Mhm.
camera, blah blah blah, right? But or I want to go buy this car, and there's no, maybe because I like all the bells and whistles, but do I really need that car, and does it really make sense? Probably not.
Right.
So B2C is one thing. So let's keep, because robotics, you can get people to buy stuff because it's cool all day long. You're
Okay.
not going to get, but if you really want to get full acceptance and say
Mm,
build an infrastructure of a robotic platform that's really going to change fundamentally an industry or the functionality of something, that's on the B2B side.
I
So
see. Yeah.
you look at some of like Amazon, for example, but you look at some of the big logistics provider, Alibaba, and things like that.
Mhm,
All
mhm,
the automation that they're putting in. You look at some of the large logistics handling companies, FedEx, DHL, UPS.
mhm,
They're automating. Even car manufacturers automating. Um,
mhm.
and so that's where the shift is really going to go. And I think
Okay.
in my mind it's probably less cool, but it's more fun, it's more foundational and more that's going to change. So and you're starting to see now finally, with what Brain's doing is putting robots in public spaces. So in the past, right, what all this automation that's ever kind of happened in the business world has happened behind the curtain.
That's
you
right.
know
Yep.
right, so
Mhm.
you and I on an everyday basis, we're not walking through a logistics
Right. Right.
manufacturing or industrial complex, because that's closed to the public. That's their employees and their safety zones and all that kind of
Yep.
stuff. Now Brain is leading the space for indoor mobile robots in public spaces, and I think that's where you're going to start to see this crazy shift. So customers, in public, and people in the public space are going to now interact much more frequently with this. If you go to YouTube, you can find people taking videos of robots in public spaces because
Mhm,
they're there for the first time,
mhm,
and they've started
mhm.
to be there. So I think you're going to see things that aid businesses, but that are more out in public spaces.
Okay.
We see things like delivery robots. That's going to be big, right? Just taking something from point A to point B,
Yep.
whether that's in a hospital, whether that's I mean, there's some like, meal delivery services in downtown, heavily populated cities that are now, instead of having a Uber Eats or a DoorDash or whatever go pick up your food and deliver it to you, if you're in a very highly populated area, like a San Francisco or Chicago or New York or something,
Mhm.
the little robot pulls up, and the restaurant puts the food in that robot, and that robot drives down the sidewalk and goes to your apartment complex, and then you come out and get it and go back up, right?
Wow. Okay.
So that's another example of,
Mm, mm.
and that's an outdoor one. And we talked about earlier where it's tough to go do outdoors. It is, but
Mm,
they've
mm. Would
come.
will we live in a society where human beings don't have to do much? Do you see a world eventually where humans just have time for leisure and creative activity, and we're not having to do anything physically, and robots are doing the rest? Do you see that eventually?
I think by nature we aren't like that. I mean, look at everything that we have in our house now today that we kind of take for granted. And if you went back 150 years from now and brought someone here, they would say, oh my gosh, you have this like crazy machine that you just throw your dishes in, and an hour later they're perfectly clean, and I don't have to stand in the sink. And oh my gosh, you've got this machine where you just throw your clothes into, and I don't have to stand, with the scrub board.
Right.
Right. It's like all these automated things, right, that we have around the house that we kind of take for granted. I mean, look at the vehicles that we have. It's
Right.
like, oh, you don't have to have the horse and the buggy, and you don't have to all this work to get maintain a cart and a Conestoga wagon or whatever, right? I mean, but are we any less busy? Look at computers. Look at, oh, the typewriter killed the pen, the computer killed the typewriter. Like, what's next? I mean, are we any less busy? No, we
Mm-hmm.
just try to jam more productivity into our daily lives. And that's why I think having a work-life balance is so important. And kind of circle back to what you said before. It's like, people should have something to kind of throw themselves into, whether that's a hobby or
Other than
a
work. Yeah.
other than
Yeah.
work, because
Yeah.
if you like what you do, you'll never work a day in your life, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I do like what I do. I love what I do, but it's I think you've got to have some other outlets there, to have a balance.
Well, so what I heard you say right there was, yeah, even if robots end up doing a lot of things for us, we'll just think of other shit to do. And because we're just super by nature, we want to just,
Yeah.
we're going to
Yeah.
try to figure something else out.
Yeah, and just like anything else, I mean, when the computer came around, and folks said, "Oh my gosh, well, this is going to kill all the typewriter jobs, or this is going to do," but how many people do you know that work in IT now or work in,
Right.
right? I mean,
Right.
computers have made a huge industry and a huge business, and so I mean, I've got tons of people I know now who jobs that did not exist 5 or 6 years ago, who are now AMR deployment specialists, AMR consultants.
Mm-hmm.
So you need, there's just more jobs that come with those other jobs.
If you think today's tip or guest interview can help someone you know, please share this with them. If you've enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe to our channel and hit the like button. The Riderflex podcast features entrepreneurs, business executives, and the stories behind how they got there, as well as daily tips on career advice and job interviewing. You can visit riderflex.com to learn more about us and get information and pricing on the recruiting and consulting services we provide. Thanks so much for listening and have a great day.